I would love to see which portal it is. But you know, it's starting to look good, and our players are in.
Yeah, so game one has started. So officially we are looking at we're looking at game one of the Ireland Collegiate TFT Winter, of course powered by by natives, and I think for those who have followed the Ireland Collegiate scene, there is a player in here that you might recognize, which is Katsu, who is the previous winner of this tournament, who is our current champion. So people are definitely going to be looking at him as we are currently watching over his board, and people are probably going to be excited about what he's going to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of intimidation when you hear that someone is like a high achiever in TFT. You might not, you know, ever be able to face one of the higher rated players that you hear about, but when you first get them in your lobby, sometimes you start shaking a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a little bit you're a little bit scared. I've played against challenger players before, and I'm just like, oh great, yay, time to either extremely high roll or go away.
It can definitely be difficult as our players are selecting their first augments. I believe then that this is going to be the champion conference, as we can see the Cassiopeia popping out off of the bench, and picking branching out seems to be one way to play around that, right? If you want access to one of these powerful verticals, such as Portal, which Katsu got, then you are going to be able to access something like Nora as early on as the start of Stage 5. And that could be a very powerful way to handle this game. But as of right now, I don't see items that correspond as well to Portal as, you know, maybe you would want them to. So it'll be interesting to see what decisions Katsu is going to make with their reforgers in this situation.
Yeah, just looking at it, you have a couple of reforgers. You have a couple. There are some options to go for, and the portal emblem I expect it to go on a little bit later. So he's opted to sell most of the units on his bench, go for that early loss streak. Already has the 10 gold, and it looks as though he's probably going to try and get some portal units in as well. Maybe go for the 3 portal, because 3 portal is still a fairly strong trade to have active.
Yeah, I would agree. Portal is a very powerful early game option. I do wonder, yeah, I think Katsu wants to make a decision about their items before they're able to make a decision about whether they want to keep this emblem. But they do have access to that powerful synergy as early as they want it, because now they have 3 portal when you put that Galio on the board.
Yep, and you're already looking at the options. You maybe try for Warwick, try to look for the second Vanguard for that Galio, and I mean, you already have the 2 bastions of Lily and Poppy, which are the standard for this board. But yeah, he already has two Warwicks purchased, so I think when you were just going to see, yep, triple portal. You have the Poppy for Witchcraft with the Zoe, so I think he's just going to opt for that, and have a stable board and maybe go for a loss streak, but like try to focus more on 1 or 2 unit loss streak.
Yeah, and if on this carousel these few losses mean that you are able to get something like a rod for Umbrella Nomicon or whatever else you want to build with that, I think that would be really beneficial if you are playing as hard as you are going to around this portal spat. And at the same time, it looks like we're going to catch a win as well that allows us to make 20 without selling any of our pairs. That feels very, very good.
Yeah, just making that little bit of extra income without selling anything just feels so satisfactory. And he still looks like he's like on bottom 4, so he's going to have second pick at this carousel, so it's going to be very nice. I do see a rod, it's on a Nunu, so we might not get it, but we also see a frying pan, which is going to get picked up immediately.
Yeah, and I do think that when you are playing around a high level trait, you do want to pick up as powerful a component as this frying pan. But I would mention at the same time that if you don't have a strong game plan for what to do with it, then you might be burdening yourself with the decision of, oh, I've got to make some form of emblem in order to take advantage of this. And in addition to that, we saw that the player who took it, who I think is either the real, it might be the real control, but it escapes me for now. They had to take that on a 1 cost. So that is going to be an additional level of economic damage to their early game. So they really have to make the most of that frying pan.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, you also have to look for, you have to look for the emblems that are available to you and get, but we'll touch a little bit more on that later. Because currently we're looking at they I believe that's how you pronounce it, with the Eldritch board, and he has a two-star Nila here, so a fairly strong board if you're asking me about the early game.
Yeah, Nila found her way to the backline as well. She's on the Seraphine, and she is going to be outlasting the other carries on the side of Kneisel. So, at this point, I don't know if either of these players really love this outcome, because one of them wanted to win streak and one of them was on a loss streak. So we'll see whether these players are able to adapt to the way that the situation seems to have changed now.
I mean, he just came off of AFK and he started winning and has 50 gold now. So I think win or lose, he was extremely happy about it. Like, talk about the high roll during stage 2.
Yeah, having that Nila 2 really does allow you to stabilize here at the end of stage 2, and I would imagine through at least the start of stage 3. I think that it is a little bit difficult because not all of the items that you want to slam on a Rageblade user, such as Jinx or Callista, are items that you are going to love slamming at the present on Nila. But that's totally fine. It'll do for now, and I think that they'll be in a great position to transition to whatever they want to as time goes on.
I mean, Nila is still a very fine item holder. We've seen some Nila 3 boards pop up. There is the Eldritch reroll board that you can go for with like a bunch of three stars from the early Eldritch units. So it's not uncommon to see it, and we might just see Nila become a carry. But we'll look at it though. We'll worry about Nila 3 at a little bit of a later stage, because the golems have come up, and golems are always very interesting to me because you can either have some of the greatest item drops for your comp, or you're basically getting forced to pivot.
Yeah, it can be a difficult time of the game, right? Picking up a glove here, also not excellent for Portal for Rise, but we'll see how it goes. And a few more components, a tier, and one more that they are going to need to clear up a little bit of space on that item bench floor.
Oh my god. Portal hopping and Ezreal from the portal. Now, this is what I call a high roll.
Yeah, this is a very strong position to be playing from, as we are going to be able to get 6 Portal online as early as next turn if we level up to 6.
Yeah, this is going to be extremely interesting. And you have the Morellonomicon. You also have a Shojin, which is another great Rise item, and the last item can be something along the lines of a static ship. I've also seen Guardbreaker being played fairly recently, so it's very interesting. You have some flexibility with Rise's third item, but I think as long as you have a Shogun in, you can definitely work with what you've got.
Yeah, and over on the other side, we saw Kneisel lose their win streak early, in the middle of the last stage, but now they look really powerful. They've got 6 pairs of Galio, 4 Vexes, and I think they're in a powerful position to be playing around Vigard if they find more of those. Now, here are some interesting gold augments. We're going to skip the Golden Quest. Seems a little bit tough for the time being. Precious Forge could work very well, though.
Capricious Forge was looking interesting. I think vertically inclined, especially when you have a portal emblem and you're looking to play, yeah, there it is, 6 portal. You're going to get that 18% damage amp very, very nicely.
Yeah,
And
I think it's super powerful right now when your synergies look like this, right? You've got one synergy, so you have 18% damage amp for the rest of the stage, more or less. But I would say as time goes on, this portal board tends to get a few more synergies on it, so might be less happy about it as time goes on, depending on the other compositions that are in play.
Katsu just used the tier to build redemption, which, I'm not opposed to it, but like, you better hope you get a tier on carousel, because otherwise you might be struggling later on. Though we have seen Rise not utilize Shojin, but it helps a lot. And well, who am I to tell about what Katsu knows what to do, because he currently demolished the board of I Make Her Move. That's a name of all time.
Yeah.
Who was undefeated up until that point. So Katsu definitely knows what he's doing.
For sure. I would say that I don't need to have a Shojin on my Rise, but I would love to have some extra AP, some extra scaling, and I think the one thing that the tier might have really been useful for is the static shift, right? To spread a little bit of magic resistance shred across the enemy board, and then by virtue of doing that, Rise is also going to have a good chance of hitting those same targets that you just shred. So that could have been one way to go.
Definitely agree with you there. I do love to have my Rise, have the shred. Sometimes I would put it on the Ezreal, but then he would just blink out and not hit the targets that Rise is hitting. So you're kind of getting the reverse, the anti-synergy. But having it on the Rise is just makes it a little bit more reliable. So it's going to be a. So I think you just want to save that here, and you want to look for a bow to make Rise as strong as he could possibly get.
Yep, for sure. Now there is going to be a Rise on this carousel, and one thing I want to point out, there's no one win streaking at this point, and I think a lot of players have managed to save HP one way or another. 55 being the lowest HP in the lobby means I think people really did a decent job of conserving the amount of HP that they lost. And I think that speaks for a little bit of the level of the players in terms of managing tempo.
Yeah, definitely, a little bit. I'm definitely a little bit surprised, but we're definitely seeing some, high quality gameplay, a lot of min-maxing going around, and I mean, you mentioned someone like Nisal, who only lost that one round and has been going on a steady win streak, and you have basically the top 3 not basically losing like 1 or 2 rounds, and they're still fairly strong. And even the people at the bottom, they have gone on loss streaks, but it's not been so detrimental that they're danger levels of getting eliminated.
Yeah, I would agree. But at the same time, I'm looking at the econ some of these players have stored up, and when you look over at the other side of OMG, it's Romy, I don't think that they have a lot of staying power in the rest of this game, because they are relatively low and they don't have that much economic power for the rest of this game.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that they were very low on gold, but I thought I saw a roll down happen for Oh My God, It's Romy, and yeah, we do see a Gwen, we do see a Hecarim too. So one of those pesky 4-stars, like you mentioned, has come in, and you have a warrior multi-striker board set up, and the Zillion for good measure. But I think this might just turn into a Callista board, because you have the Callista in shop for Oh My God, It's Romy. So maybe we just grab the Callista and try to go and opt into Callista carry, because we do know that Callista is very, very strong. But maybe not. Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, I think the big challenge here is that Romy has slammed the Archangels, so they might be preferring the Karma here,
Yeah.
and playing around the Warriors as well. So it's just very difficult, right? Because as far as we've seen, there are so many powerful forecasts showing up in Romy's shop, such as the Gwen, the Karma, and the Callista. But because they are low econ, they're going to have to manage their win streak really well in order to get from this position to the position where they can maximally play around these forecasts.
Yeah, I think you're basically forced to roll it to level up to 7, and then try to hit your board from there, and hopefully make enough economies so that you survive to level 5.
And the champion conference doesn't go their way. They didn't tailor around the difference between multi-strikers and warriors, so they end up picking up a Callista that's really tough for them, because I think in this spot they wanted, maybe even needed, to get a copy of Gwen or Fiora.
Yeah, definitely. I would have preferred, that Fiora just to get those 4 warriors in, and get 4 warriors. Have your 2 forecasts at 4-1, and you're basically a very happy camper. You're fine even losing a few rounds just to build up your economy. But still, you do have 50 gold as Remy. And the Hecarim is jumping around, is cleaving at everyone's board, so he's still going to win this round. And if he gets a decent augment here, I think Remy has just managed to come back into the game fairly unscathed.
Yeah, it could very well be the case that they are able to win streak for a little while, but I think there are some powerful players in this lobby that might start scaling right about now. So Item Collector could be a really good option here. Maybe Duo Q would give you some scaling and some staying power, right?
Oh, if you get a Camille from Duo Q, that could be very interesting, but going to opt out of it, going to go for the Spellblade, because we do have some AP board, but wow, that's a board. That is a board and a half.
I don't know how you can have a Galio and the rest of this board at this stage of the game, but hey, it happened. And I don't think Knisel is complaining about it. I would like to see the items from Seraphine eventually find their way to Vigar, but with the removers that they have at their disposal, I don't think that's going to pose a challenge at all.
You have 1 remover, 1 reforger, you have a Nami, you have a Galio 3, and you've already built up mages and vanguards. And now the real question is, who said mages are weak?
I wouldn't know if anybody's saying mages are weak if you're looking at this spot, but
yeah,
they don't place that well in the stats. I would say that a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is a scaling composition, and you need to be able to dominate the rest of the lobby for a little bit to save the HP and get to the point where your reroll really starts to be effective. But hey, if you have a Galio 3, it looks like the Galio 3 was free, right? You just had this the whole time. So yeah, this looks really good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Galio is uncontested. The only other person who would have Galios is Katsu, and with 14-19, the increase in Galios in the pool has come back. So you have more units in the shared pool. So hitting a Galio 3 was just that much easier. But still, if no one is contesting you, like you said at the start of the stream, if no one's contesting you and you manage to hit it, you're going to have a strong board.
Yeah. Now we see the matchup between Knisel and Romy, and it's going to be over for Romy. Their win streak has come to an end, and it looks like they're being stuck at level 6 is now going to pose a really big challenge. So I don't know if they can go to level 7 and roll, or go to level 8 and roll, but they are going to have to make some tough decisions very soon about how to spend their resources.
Yeah, looking at it, it's going to be tough, because had the unfortunate luck of rolling down so early and basically not hit as much as they would have wanted, but now they have some semblance of a board, and it was the battle of the win streakers, so still you can't be too dissatisfied with it. But yeah, if I'm Remy, I would be looking to roll down right now. And someone that I would also like to look at is the Real Control, because they are on 17 HP, you know, almost getting eliminated. Oh, has a warrior emblem as well. So is this? Yeah, it's a 6 warrior board. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think
So
that their
yeah.
plan seems to be, I actually really do wonder, where did this warrior emblem come from? When were they able to make this happen? Because in the mid game, I remember seeing the Shyvana on their board with both the Sterax and the Seeker's Arm Guard. And I was really curious about where that was going. And it looks like they really did end up putting it together in terms of the board that they wanted to get to, but they don't have a lot of HP left. And they're going to need to rely on the power of this this chase trait, 6 warrior, in order to get them past the finish line.
Yeah, you're definitely looking at warriors, especially this Katarina, to help you out and maybe get to that top four slot. And this all goes back to 2-4 to the carousel at stage 2 when the Real Control managed to get that frying pan, so managed to create that warrior emblem, and it took them a while, but they finally hit 6 warriors. So now they're just going to look for a Fiora upgrade, a Gwen upgrade. Has the long distance pals as well. So Neela and Katarina are both giving each other a lot of those stats. So I mean, I like this board. If they manage to hit a couple of 2-stars, Real Control can definitely be a contender for a top 4 spot.
Yeah, but over on the other side, we see Katsu having gotten to level 8. They were able to find a Nami 2, a Tarek for their front line, and a Rise for their back line. This could be a tough fight for the Real Control, as Katarina is still spinning, but she might be on her last legs. Is Rise going to cast again? Is the fight going to be over? No, the Warriors are sustaining through despite all of the damage the backline is outputting, and it looks like Katarina is going to find the end of this fight.
That I fully expected for Katsu to win that fight, especially because it looks like he has 8 portal in, but wow. Talk about a high roll in a shop. You got a Rakan, you got a Gwen, you got a 2-star Bard, all in one shop, and now you're going to get some gold from these chickens, and you can still donk your roll for it. As the real control, you really have to dunk your roll in order to hit the upgrades on your board. So I'm not opposed to this.
Yeah, I think them having the Lesser Champion Duplicator in their pocket, that could lead to a very powerful situation later on down the line when they could hit the Katarina 3, but they're still far from that. Now we are over with I Make Her Moo playing this Frost variant of Karma, and I think this is an interesting board, but our front line is looking a little bit flimsy, and it makes me quite concerned because we have gold to spend, but oh my god, it's just a Morgana 2 for free.
Well, Morg 2 comes in, 4 Preserver, and is this going to be a level up? And yeah, this just looks like it's going to be a level up, and it's going to be the 4 Chrono Olaf board that we've seen a little bit for the last few patches. So basically, the way this works, for those who are unfamiliar, is Olaf's spell makes him basically unable to be CC'd. So even the time freeze from Chrono does not affect him, which makes this board so powerful because everything else on your board is frozen, except for those Chrono units. However, Olaf is an exception because Olaf is unstoppable. He cannot be stunned, or he's unaffected by the time freeze.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful explanation, but we've already had to say goodbye to Romy, who really struggled to put it together towards the end of the game. And over here, we look at the Real Control, who's also struggling now with items going over to the 2-star Gwen. I think she can be really powerful if she's allowed to scale in the fight, but she's taking aggro from the Vigar and she's already fallen down. Now the Katarina is the only carry left alive and she's not doing enough to take down that Vigar, so it's going to be lights out for the Real Control. Unfortunately, the game plan just came together a little bit too late.
Yeah, I think they had lost way too much HP during the early stages and, you know, fighting over that late game board
Whoa.
mages.
This is an interesting position from Wiglor, who got to put together the ultimate spin to win board with 3 very intimidating looking items on this Wukong. Unfortunately though, the rest of the board doesn't seem to be very upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it, it's like it's 4 preserver, yeah, so, and you have a very strong Wukong who's basically, you know, trying to spin to win, but I do think you need some of these upgrades to come in just for that extra bit of oomph and killing power on this Wukong, but looking at it, just, wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Wukong did not live through the sustained damage and the sustained healing from the fairy board, and we have to say goodbye to Wiglor, who went against Thel Kusavai, and Thel Kusavai really just seems to have the most powerful fairy board you could have without a fairy emblem. They already have Callista, Rakan, and Emilio upgraded, and they are itemized relatively well in addition to that. So that's a really tough opponent to be looking at the end of this game. Maybe Katsu could do it. Maybe Kinesel could do it with the scaling of that portal board, or with the scaling of that Vigar board, but it is going to be difficult no matter what, because you have to crack that tank in Rakan, and you have to deal with the sustained damage from Callista.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the Vigar is an infinite stacker, so technically he could be one of the strongest board, but looking at it here, is that, yeah, that's 4 Arcana, and that is a very strong Tahm Kench, so this board is also very, very interesting to watch, and I mean, it could give Thel Kusavai a run for his money.
Yeah, I think that I would like to see a few decisions made here. You want to take Mystic Spirit if this is one of the people who's in the pool of enemies you can fight. And unfortunately, I think the lack of power that we have in terms of itemization for our Varus, in terms of the charm that we had access to, means that Katsu is going to be taking this round, and Katsu looks to be well on their way to level 9, or to hitting a Rise 3, which is one possibility for them, as they have 5 Rises on their board and their bench.
I mean, no one is playing up against Rise, you know, no one is rolling for Rise. You have the Rise 2, you also have that's a level 9 board, and now you have Diana for the double Bastion and the extra bit of frontline to help you out, so just a maximization of the board. And you have the Portal Emblem on Nami, which is another mage to help out your Nora and Galio, and Nami just provides that extra bit of CC, you know, Galio becomes a little bit more tanky, Nora deals a little bit of extra damage, so there's the extra bit of oomph you need for this board to be extremely, extremely strong. And going up against the strongest board, we might see just the test of how strong the board is.
Yeah, and as this fight plays out, you know, we'll see that Rakan just heal through all this damage when it comes to Callista providing that gunblade effect via the Fairy Queen's Crown, but Rise could bypass it by hitting the Callista directly. It's a close fight, but Callista has scaled with the Rage Blade through to the end, and despite the close nature of the fight, it is going to be Thel Kusavai taking the victory. And we pointed out that Katsu has these extra Rises on their bench, while at the same time, Thel Kusavai has extra Callistas on their bench. And those extra Callistas come with a champion duplicator, so that could really be the lights out for the rest of the lobby if Thel Kusavai is able to find the Callista 3 at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, I think these 2 boards are going to be our front-runner boards just for the win, and I think Katsu needs to hit the Nora 2 in order to have, you know, that, well, that's going to help it out, for sure. But yeah, there we go. Just hit. It's a just hit angle.
Yeah, not exactly a tall task, it seems, for Katsu. We would love to see an upgrade come through for the front line in terms of maybe hitting this Diana 2, but there's not a whole lot stronger we can get. So now we have a guaranteed matchup against Aimee Kermu, and let's see if Katsu is going to be able to outposition here. It's the Ghost, and I think that, oh, it is the Morgana 2, it is the Camille 2. That board is very strong, and it looks like the Earthquake is going to come through as well to stun Katsu's board at the start of the fight. But Nora is scaling in the backline. Rise pauses for that chrono, and yeah, Olaf has fallen, so it is going to be these two backline carries up against this Morgana and the Karma, and over on the other side, Aimee Kermu's Ghost board will fall.
Yeah, I mean, the Rise is way too strong, but also the thing was, Olaf got hit by the Nora way too early, and so everything got popped off, but during the course of that round, we had to say goodbye to Aimee Kermu and Niesel. Sadly, the mage board was not strong enough. Maybe he didn't hit the Veigar 3 that he needed. And Aimee Kermu, I think, had a very decent board, but I just think the three boards that we have left in here are just so strong that you can't help but like feel a little bit sad that, you know, you've hit your board and you still can't go up against what is essentially the ultimate board you can play at this stage.
Yeah, and these boards are incredibly powerful as we see this Arcana Varus board facing off against Katsu's Portal with a dragon in the back. So this is going to be doing a lot of damage, and the front line for Duke has already fallen. But Ascension has come. Nora it is the last one standing, and it's going to be a Krug that secures the fight as the front line. That was so close, and you can see why, you know, as Duke started to make a few more decisions in terms of the power of this board, they were really able to come into a level of strength that the other players are starting to struggle to deal with.
Yeah, and also Tel'Kusavai lost to the Ghost of one of those other boards, but now, and Duke has rolled into the Shield, and he's going to play against Tel'Kusavai, so it's basically a guaranteed victory against that board. So this is going to be a very interesting end of our game.
Yeah, now this Ghost fight is going to be a relatively easier matchup if the Ghost board, you know, does lack a little bit of power. And the tower, you can see in the front line, it's shocking some of the teammates of Tel'Kusavai. So it's doing a lot of work already, and you can see that this fight is nowhere near close as the DPS of this Arcana board really starts to shine.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very late game board, and we love this Arcana. And Katsu, you know, has hit the Nora too, so now he has an easier time into this fairy board. So it's going to be a lot more difficult for Tel'Kusavai to just, you know, get those round wins. And we have a change in the leaderboard. You know, Katsu is now first place, and if Duke does not get a very good charm for a fight against Katsu might just win this.
Yeah, I will point out though, Tel'Kusavai is one off of Callista 3 here, so I want to see how much they want to roll for it. Do they know that they're probably up against the Ghost of Duke, and how desperate are they to find this hit in order to secure the rest of their game?
Yeah, I mean, if you're up against the Ghost, you probably have a decent enough shot of winning that one. So, oh wait, is it going to be? Yeah, it's going to be a real fight between the two boards.
This is close. Now, I don't know exactly what is going to be decisive for the positioning here. You can see that Emilio is already handing out items to the fairy board, and Rakan still stands strong, but Callista has been stunned up for a moment. Is she going to be able to scale with the Rage Blade into this fight? Ascension comes out for Duke. Rakan, however, is still standing, and this fight is going to come down to the wire as Callista is attacking 1,000,000 miles per second, but it's over for Tel'Kusavai, who we thought was in such a powerful spot, but the other two players in the lobby were able to find more and more power as they got to level 9 and hit everything that they needed to.
I just want you to you know, see that this is a basically a naked Zerat too. If this Zerat had items, no one would be able to fight this board. And I mean, it's still a very strong board. You know, it's still 4 Arcana. You still have the Varus at the forefront. But if this Zerat can get onto this rise from Katsu, you might be looking at a Duke win for game one.
Yeah, it is going to come down somewhat to the fight RNG, to the RNG of the portals, but now we have what could be our final matchup, as Duke is on one life. You can see that Katsu has gotten both Archangel staffs on their carries now, and this fight is looking dire because Ryze and Nora are both doing tons of damage to Duke. And despite Nora falling, despite the rest of the board taking that burst damage, it is going to be Katsu, last season's champion, taking the victory of the first game of Ireland Collegiate's winter season.
I mean, he was uncontested. He got the right items. He got everything that he needed. Everything that he needed. So now he just managed to get that rise to. You know, he had an extra rise too on his bench. You know, he had 7 rises, I think, at the end probably. So you know, just a very strong board. Branching out gave him that portal emblem, and vertically inclined just gave him that extra bit of power that he needed, especially for the late game. Because in a late game board, 18% damage amplification is very very strong, which Katsu had for basically most of the game. And just kudos to him for winning the game one.
Yeah, I think that when you were up against the fairy board, there's a chance that vertically inclined wasn't doing as much as you wanted it to. But when you went up against that Arcana board, the Arcana board runs tons of synergies. So vertically inclined really was guaranteed to be powerful in that situation. And you could see Katsu, if there's something to admire about their game plan, it's that in the early game, when they were offered this portal spat, they were patient and they saw what their items gave them and turned that situation into a better one. And at the end of the game, you saw that they had several removers left to roll additional items that they weren't necessarily confident that they could use. That ended up giving their Nora an additional item and helped them scale into the end of the game. Now, if you saw how close those fights were, I think that those micro decisions could have made the difference at the very end. And over on the other side, I do want to comment on Thel Kusavai's game plan because I think they put up a really good fight with that fairy board with the multi-striker Callista. But what I would comment on is that in terms of the augment formula that they went with, they had what might be 2 or even 3 econ augments. And that is a tough position to put yourself in because even though you hit really early and you look so scary, your board might be missing some of the extra combat strength that you need to go up against heavy hitters like Katsu.
I mean, yeah, you're basically relying on charms, and I mean, it is a good strategy because you can get those very decent charms like the shield when you have Zerat on your board, but yeah, you were basically at the mercy of getting a good charm when you go for triple econ and for the other econ board, and I mean, Duke's still managed to tough it out. Still managed to get the second place, nearly winning over Katsu's board. Only the rise was left at the end, so it was a very very solid game plan. And you know, second place is not a bad outcome of this game, especially when you look at it that up until Katsu hit the Nora 2, he was winning against them.
Yeah, I think that was a tough position to play for Duke, right? You saw at the very end of the game that they had what looked like very strong items on the Varus and on their front line. But there was a moment in between where we saw their perspective, and they didn't even have like a last whisper slammed on their Varus. They had an open
Mm.
component or an open pair of components that they wanted to greed out. And I think that was bold, and it didn't really come back to bite them in terms of losing a placement, but it could have. And I want to see a little bit more decisiveness about whether you want to greed, about what you want to slam, and at the end of the day, that could be the game changer in their future games.
Yeah, and we're going to see if Duke is going to improve on some of those minor things. But for now, we are going to send it off to a very short break, and we'll be right back with you guys for game two. Stay tuned.